Alright guys, HyDra again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. Dashy responds to some of the criticism that he received in the most recent season, certainly discussions during the year that he's playing too much Counter-Strike, too much Valorant over time, and not enough pure Call of Duty. But Dashy reckons that as long as the quality is there, not necessarily the quantity of play, then actually playing more Call of Duty makes him worse, and playing less Call of Duty makes him better. Clearly, Dashy over the last couple of years has figured out this secret sauce for him playing his best Call of Duty. Is this going to continue there for OpTic's dominance in the upcoming year? Very much enjoy your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. Couple of things to start off with. This is pretty remarkable. So Cellium and Pred have played each other a lot over the last few years. And if we look at some of the numbers here from Falcons COD Muse, you will see something like this. Cell and Pred have been at each other's throats since Vanguard. Now they will try to soar above the rest. Cell has winning records against 3 of the top 5 teams, while Pred only has 1. Do we see a skill gap change with this duo? So, you know, pretty much what this looks like is that Pred, his record against FaZe over the last few years, he has 7 wins against FaZe, 21 defeats, which is kind of crazy to think how much Pred has played FaZe, right? When he was on Surge, they played FaZe a lot. Of course, famously, they got the win against FaZe at those grand finals at Major 3 that year. Pred won the MVP for, back on his debut season back in Vanguard. But with Surge and with OpTic as well in the recent couple of years, then he's had a more difficult time against FaZe and even Surge the following year as well. Their record against FaZe obviously not that good that season. Pred's played OpTic 10 times before he joined and since as well. 4-6 record there. Against Heretics, it's kind of cool to see Heretics thrown into this conversation, really, just because for the last few years, you wouldn't have really thought Heretics would be on here, but after last season, they look like a contender, so they're right here. 5-5 against them, 7-4 record Pred has against Thieves, 6-11 against Toronto, whereas Cell's record is far stronger. He's actually dead even against OpTic, 12-12, ahead against Heretics, ahead against Thieves pretty dramatically, and ahead against Toronto pretty dramatically as well. The only thing, of course, we haven't seen yet is Cellium play FaZe, and it is an interesting conversation to think about. Well, what's going to happen when Cell plays against FaZe, against his former team? Even FaZe COD Muse, they quote tweeted and say this: Simp never lost to Cell in their nearly 1 year of competing against each other. It wasn't quite a year, so Cellium in the Black Ops 4 season, he was on FaZe. Simp came in kind of halfway through the year, but they played a couple of times, and Sympathy United got the better of Cellium and FaZe at the time, and, well, FaZe COD Muse say doubtful that trend breaks now, just because maybe Falcons aren't going to be all that next season. Might have to give our boy an 0-1 record when Black Ops 7 comes around, so, you know, we'll see how it goes. It is, of course, a big question as to how the Falcons are going to get on next year with Xnid and we think Kismet rounding out the team. How is that team going to compare against FaZe? Can Cellium, you know, step up to the plate? Obviously, these guys are probably getting paid rather handsomely to do so. So, you know, time will tell if they can turn some of those records around. The other thing I wanted to mention, it was a comment that I saw on the Reddit the other day about the third game mode. There's lots of talk right now, even behind the scenes as well, as to what the third game mode is going to be. Yes, Hardpoint, yes, Search and Destroy, no doubt about that. Control, I think most of us are kind of fed up with it. There are good, viable alternatives to Control that I think would be worth trying. There have been some that have thrown around the idea of potentially running 4 game modes, like we had back in Black Ops 3, and even, was it Advanced Warfare as well, when it was Hardpoint, Search and Destroy, Uplink, Capture the Flag, Search and Destroy. And look, I'm not the biggest fan of that. I love Hardpoint. I think it's great. I think it should stay. I like the idea of 1 third mode. But I think it's worth considering a couple of things. Now, I included some of the comments here just because some talk about headquarters as a game mode. It has been thrown around as an idea before. When you capture the headquarters, it's kind of like a hardpoint looking thing. And, well, it's like a big box that you need to stand by to capture it. And then once you do capture it, you score points every 5 seconds for controlling it. But there are no respawns for the team that is still alive and actually controls the point, basically. So that's the game mode. You know, it could be interesting. I don't think it would be massively more compelling, but again, it's a bit of a hardpoint search and destroy hybrid, which is also kind of like what Control is. So it's relatively easy for new players to understand, which I get, but I don't think it's different enough to be interesting, and I think that something like Uplink is also relatively easy to understand, as is Capture the Flag. And I do think that generally Control is fine, like I don't hate it, but I do think we can do better, and there has been talk about something like Oddball control, which is a HaLo game mode where you have to control the ball and rather than, you know, dunk it into the point. So there's a few options there, but definitely it's a conversation right now what game modes are going to be in Black Ops 7, and when that is confirmed and revealed, then what are we actually going to be playing for the upcoming year. But a couple of things we've got to mention here on Dashy. Of course, OpTic, they went back-to-back at the end of the season. Dashy's now a back-to-back Call of Duty World Champion. Him and Shotzzy winning 2024, winning 2025. The COD League jumped on this bandwagon as well. I don't know why it is, every so often, every, I don't know, year, like this becomes like a big trend on Twitter of like, oh, can I fit it in the header or whatever? And, you know, so this was some premium glazing here for the COD League. They put this one in the header with all these like little goats or whatever it is. So I guess that was pretty funny, I suppose. But anyway, that was the team that won the World Championship. They went on to win the Esports World Cup shortly after that as well. And a duo that was on that team was Dashy and Mercules. Now, this is a pretty remarkable clip the boys here found up, and I'll share it for you guys in a second. All the way back in Black Ops 4, when, if you guys are aware, Mercules was younger at the time, obviously, but used to play quite a lot of Chals. There was a pretty famous clip of, was it iLLeY clutching a 1v2 against Mercules and his boy, and then like Mercules' teammate was like crying or something down the microphone. That was pretty funny. But this was actually iLLeY playing with Mercules and ProLoot all those years ago. You can see here iLLeY, ProLoot, TBE Merc, and it's Blast and Capsidal that Dashy's playing with here. So pretty legendary clip, really. They find themselves in a 2v2 here on Arsenal. Again, a map that could potentially make a return for Black Ops 7. We talked about some of the Black Ops 3 maps that could come back the other day. I think there's a world where some of these BO4 maps could be considered too. But I mean, yeah, that was just a disgusting shot that Dashy hits here. Like, I don't even know how did he even hit it. Like, the bullet on this screen wall banged straight through that and just domed Mercules right in the head. You can see that that's the guy that he killed. So yeah, pretty disgusting. Dashy was pretty good at this game, if you guys aren't aware. They're playing a Chal here with no specialist, but of course specialists we think are potentially going to be a key factor in the upcoming title. So I'll share that clip in a second, but also wanted to share this pretty old clip now, but I never got round to it at the time, so it was sitting in my kind of like notes to cover this eventually because I thought it was too interesting to not talk about at some point. So Dashy, shortly after they got back from the World Cup, and of course they'd won everything, he was talking about the general perception of him over the last couple of years, maybe not playing enough Call of Duty. And this is a very common thing, and it's not just OpTic fans that do this, it's all Call of Duty fans of various teams. If they see their favourite player not having too good results in the server, but yet they're, you know, they're hopping on GTA, they're playing some other game at night, the fans will understandably be like, damn, you guys, you know, you're not committed enough, you're not grinding hard enough and all this. And it's interesting how that works in esports, because in regular sports, you're not necessarily to know these things. Of course, you know, players who don't try that hard in practice and then they hit the casino, yeah, of course they get criticized, right? But in Call of Duty, you know, the players like to stream a lot because it's a good additional source of revenue and to connect with the community. But if your team's not winning, a lot of the time the fans will criticize you if you're not what they consider to be grinding harder, playing more 8s, playing more Chals, playing more, you know, whatever, to try and get better at the game. But Dashy, at this point in his career, he's been around a long time. He understands what works for him and what doesn't. And I think there is a real feeling for, at least, you know, the teams generally have figured this out, that purely just putting in the hours, maybe at the start of the game when it first launches, yeah, hours are important to learn it. But as the game goes on, it becomes less about who can put in more hours and more about, you know, who can actually use those hours most wisely. And also your practice is going to be of a higher quality if you are engaged, if you are motivated to practice and to get better on that day. You know, 3 to 4 hours, 1 or 2 good scrim sets of very high quality practice is surely going to be worth more to a team than just mindless grinding all day, all night. So Dashy says that actually playing some other games for him makes him better at COD.
This is another thing too, bro. This is another thing we gotta say. Like, yo, are you guys gonna keep tweaking, bro? If I'm on a different game, like, bro, I didn't play a single COD. Actually, well, that's cap. I didn't stream a single bit of COD after Champs DWC, bro. You know what I mean? But I know the practice is going good. You feel me? And I'm doing it not because I don't give a fuck about the tourney. I'm doing it because, bro, I know what works for the kid. You know what I mean? I play more COD, I play worse. Play less COD, I play better. I don't know what it is. Actually, I do know what it is, but...
So I think this is wise for Dashy to have figured out. I remember in the early days when Gunless first came around, which is why I found out this clip here on Zoom had tweeted out about it anyway a little while ago. And when Pokey made it the Gunless thing, some of you guys might remember that from back in the day. But when Gunless first came around, he would just play COD like all day. I remember he talked about his schedule being that he would wake up, he would get on and play. I mean, he would wake up in like the early afternoon, right? He would get on and play pubs or ranked or something. Then scrims would start. Then he'd play scrims with his team. Then he'd get on and play 8s later in the day. And then after 8's finished, he would then play pubs until he then went to bed. And then he woke up again and did it all over again. That was like his whole life. And look, that worked for Gunless early days. He got really good really fast. But is that sustainable over a career? Very unlikely, right? And I think what Dashy has recognised is that actually playing less Call of Duty but more concentrated is better for the quality of practice that he gets, but also better for his own gameplay, right? Like, he knows how to play the game, he knows how to shoot straight. That's not going to change. And I think, I don't know, I found this myself, I know that other players have talked about it, that playing a different search and destroy, so playing Counter-Strike, playing Valorant, I don't think Dashy plays as much Val now, but, you know, CS2 was a big game that people liked to play recently, and for good reason. Counter-Strike's fantastic. It gives you a different approach to search and destroy. I don't know, I found that when I first played CS back in like 2016, 2017, whenever I first kind of got into it, when you play it, yeah, search and destroy in COD is far less complicated, but it's still activating those same kind of like neural pathways to think about how the other guy is going to play it in the 1v1, what decisions you should make here, like where you should take space, where you shouldn't. The similar concepts kind of apply. And I think that some players have said that as well, is that actually playing some CS, yeah, it's totally different mechanics. It's not going to mess up your muscle memory. I think that's another important thing. You don't want to play a different COD. You don't want to go and play Halo or something, because you're playing on controller, it's going to mess up your muscle memory to some degree for the Call of Duty that you are playing. You don't want to go and play a different Call of Duty game for fun when the aim assist is different, when the sensitivities are different, right, and all these other things. If you're playing a controller play, you want to be on COD. But you can go and play CS or something on a keyboard and mouse and still to some degree refine and hone things a little, but without actually burning yourself out to Call of Duty. So I think it was pretty sensible. Maybe Dashy's only figured that out over the last couple of years, that for him that works the best. For other players it may not. For other players they may just want to only play Call of Duty and only grinds, but clearly you can't deny Dashy's process, right? Like, this kind of approach from Dashy a year and a half ago would have been quite heavily criticised, because it's like, oh well, Dashy, how many chips have you won, right? You've only won a couple, you're not a world champion yet, and all this, and clearly your approach isn't working. But, you know, 18 months down the line, Dashy's now back-to-back world champion, won the Esports World Cup as well. Clearly he was onto something here. So anyway, very much interested in your thoughts on all of this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.
I might just throw this down, bro.
You can.
Wait for everything, dude.
Nice.
He's on steps, bro. Backed up.
I'm here, Bruce.
They're both there. He's jumping up and down behind the box with the sniper.
Yeah, I'm laying, okay?
One has the ICR, one has the ICR.
I'm playing lobby corner, right?
Oh,
I'm going in here.
ICR. Oh!
Yeah, back to
Watch out.
Yeah, let's go.
Yo, you're nasty.
Wait, what'd you just do?
You
I just said,
quickscoped him.
all I heard is all I heard Merc's head just get fucking domed, bro.
Yo, you see right here.
What?
Yo.
I just saw that.
Yo, no way we after that.
What the fuck is that?
Alright, let's get it.